Hello class 12, we were doing the chapter organs of the government and today we will continue with the judiciary. In the last video we have learned about the judiciary, which is an important organ of the government. Of the three organs, it is also an important organ of the government because it provides justice to the people. The judiciary performs various functions like that of providing justice against the violation of law, creating new laws when the judges are interpreting the laws, existing laws. Sometimes new laws are created. It is the duty of the judiciary to see that the constitution is upholded or is protected. It can decide questions, constitutional questions in a federation if there are any disputes regarding the distribution of power between the central or the state governments. It is the judiciary that interprets the constitution. It is the judiciary that settles such disputes. The judiciary also interprets the constitution. In most of the states, we find the judiciary has been given the power to interpret the constitution, which is taken as the final interpretation of the constitution. It is also the guardian of the constitution. It is the responsibility, it is the duty of the judiciary to see that the constitution is protected. It is not violated in any manner because it is the law of the land. It should not be violated in any way. No law should be made that is violating in any of the provisions of the constitution. At the same time, the judiciary also provides or also performs advisory functions. That is, if the executive asks for, then the judiciary can give its advice to it. It may be a binding upon the executive or it may not be a binding upon the executive. Along with that, we see that the judiciary is the protector of the rights of the people. Like in India, we know that the judiciary has the power to issue writs like that of habeas corpus or the mandamus to ensure to enforce the fundamental rights. So the judiciary performs a lot of functions. It not only provides justice against the violation of laws, but it performs a lot of functions. It is a very important organ of the government because on it depends the success of democracy. No matter how good the laws are, no matter how properly they are executed, if it is not protected, if the laws are not protected, if there is no authority to see that it is not violated, or if there is no scope of punishment or justice is not provided, then it is meaningless. So judiciary is a very important part of the government, but at the same time we have to keep in mind that in order to perform its functions properly, the judiciary needs to be independent. Independent means it should be free from the influences of the other organs of the government. That is, it should be given the power or the scope to act accordingly, means act independently. It should not be in any way be influenced or pressurized by anyone while establishing justice. Now, there are several factors that ensures the independence of the judiciary. The first is that it should be kept free from the executive and the legislature. That is, the executive and the legislature should not interfere in the matters of the judiciary. There should be totally a separation of the executive and the legislature from the judiciary. This is supposed to be a precondition of the independence of judiciary. The second is the mode of appointment of the judges. According to this mode of appointment of the judges, there are three modes of appointment. First is appointment by the people, where the people elect or the people choose their judges. This is supposed to be, according to some scholars, not a very good mode of appointment of the judges, because often it may happen that he is the choice of the people, but he may lack that expert knowledge or the expertise required to be the judge. So according to some, this is not really a very good method of appointing of judges. The second method is appointment by the legislature. In some states, we find that the legislature appoints the judges of the higher courts. In that case also, we find that such appointments always shows the interest of the legislature, of the party interests are there. So it is also not free from the influences or free from the pressure. Such methods has also been criticized by the scholars, like selection of judges by the legislature is not really good, but it is better than the method of choosing by the people. For some, selection of judges by the legislature is better than that of selection by the people. The third mode of appointment of the judges is the nominated by the executive. That is, the executive often nominates the judges from among the legal experts. This is a very good method according to many scholars. This method is much more acceptable than the others, and Lasky has also recommended this method of appointment of the judges, where the executive nominates the members from among the legal experts or the practitioners who are there. Like in India, the executive can nominate the judges, and in that case, the advice of the Supreme Court of India is taken. So with the advice of the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, such an appointment takes place. This method is considered to be a much better mode of appointment than that of the other two methods. And in many countries, we find that this method is being followed. Like in India, where the President appoints the judges on the advice of his Council of Ministers, but at the same time he consults the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The next is the term of office and security of service. That is, the judges should be appointed for a definite period. In some states, the judges are appointed for a definite period of time. But according to most of the scholars, the judges should be appointed for a longer period of time. They could not be removed from office just after the completion of a period. They should be allowed to remain in office. Yes, obviously they could be removed only after it is proved that he had done something or he had misused his power. That term of office and security of service should be there, which ensures that the judges will act independently, or the judiciary will be free, or the judiciary will be independent. The next method is removal of the judges. Now, if the judges are not honest, there should be provision of removing them. But according to the scholars, this process of removal is good, but there should be a proper investigation against the allegations made. Means first it should be properly investigated whether the person has really misused his power or not, and then only he should be removed. It should not be like the will of the people, the will of the executive or the legislature, that they want to remove the judges and it is removed. Only after proper investigation of the charges made against him, then only the judges should be removed. Next will come salary of the judges. The salary should be adequate so that it attracts the qualified and efficient persons to the post. That is also a method of keeping the judiciary independent or free from corrupt influences. And the next method is no variation in salary and pension should be made during the term of office to his disadvantage. Means if as long as the person is appointed, means for the entire period of time, the salary or his alliances or whatever has been promised to him, the opportunities that has been promised to him, it should not be decreased or it should not be to his disadvantage. Then there is a chance of his adopting corrupt practices, or there is a chance of corrupt influence in that case. So these are the methods how independence of the judiciary can be maintained. Most of the states, they try to follow some of these methods to ensure independence of the judiciary, and we find that the social background of the judges also play a great role in adapting the mindsets of the judges. So we have completed the judiciary, we have done the functions and the independence of the judges. In the next video, we will take up the next chapter.